Hello and welcome to ADHD History, the show where we dissect large topics. It's been a very long hiatus. I am finally back. There was school stuff, and then I kind of got distracted over winter break, and then I had to get settled back in for school. So here I am. And today the topic we're going to be breaking down is Nero. So, as we all know, the Roman Emperor Nero, he super evil dude. He just spent all his time burning people and doing bread and circuses to distract from how shit of an emperor he was. And he played the fiddle while Rome was burning, and he was also quite literally the Antichrist. Now, so if all those things are true, why was he so popular? So now I'm sure you're wondering, was he popular? And the answer is probably. He, at least among the lower classes, he was obviously despised by the upper classes, who were the ones writing the history, and he was also despised by Christians, who would be writing history later on. But among the lower classes of Rome at the time, there's some evidence to suggest he was actually quite popular. People continued bringing flowers to his grave long after his death. All of the historians of the period, Cassius Dio, Tacitus, Xenarus, all of them, they talk about how he... Suetonius as well, talk about how he... there's rumors that persisted that he was going to come back as a messiah. And on top of this, Suetonius mentions him being quite generous, but frames it as he was deviously giving out gifts to try and seem generous. So, and additionally there was a poem that came to light that talked about him in a very positive light from an unknown author. But anyways, we've got a bit of evidence suggesting that Nero had a following among the lower classes. So how did he get this following is the second question, and how did he get this bloodthirsty reputation that he's got? Well, so to address the first question, the popularity, he inherited the throne, the emperorship, the first citizenship as it was called, princeps, in a time when Rome was in a bit of an economic depression. And Nero actually used some pretty decent modern economic theory in how he dealt with this depression. The first policy he tried to push that didn't actually end up happening was he tried to end import tariffs, which is a thing that happened under FDR in the US. The RTAA was set up so that import tariffs could be reduced to allow consumer goods to be imported at a lower price so that people could buy them, which Nero wanted to do as well. The second thing Nero did was another FDR type of policy. He debased the currency. He actually created a fiat currency by taking the denarius, the silver coin, and debasing it so that he could control the amount in circulation. The gold coin, the aureus, was left at its existing state because it was very useful for foreign exchange, and foreign countries generally don't want to accept fiat if you're in the ancient world, and banking systems are very primitive. So this debasement, obviously, there's risk involved when you debase currency. You can create a whole lot of inflation. However, we can actually see from evidence at the time, we can take grain prices from just before his dynasty up to the end of the next dynasty. Grain prices actually remained exactly the same. And we also can look at the soldiers' wages, which you're not going to not match your soldiers' wages to the price of living, because then they will rebel and kill you, as we have seen countless times throughout Roman history. And we see that over 70 years following him, the Roman soldiers' wage increases by about 2% a year. So probably not a whole lot of inflation going on as a result of this. Additional economic policies that he did, the one he gets a lot of flack for from his contemporaries was the bread and circuses. He did these lavish games, and they'd have circuses, and they would throw out to the audience lots of small valuable items, pearls and gems, and grain dole tickets, and random foods and different kinds of birds and stuff that they would throw out to the audience. This, though, is interesting for a few reasons. One, it's obviously creating a lot of jobs. You need a lot of people who are going to run the circus, who are going to clean it and build it and provide food for it and participate in it. So it creates a lot of jobs. And then the throwing out goods to the audience is a way of getting food and small amounts of value out to the working classes, which is most people. And so by doing this, we get a little bit of like economic stimulation in a sort of very crude way going on. And the other aspect of this was that he did a very big public works project in the wake of the Rome fire, which we'll get back to in a second because he played the fiddle, of course, and didn't respond to it. But the relief project involved creating tons of jobs by doing reconstruction. And the reason he gets a lot of flack is because a lot of this reconstruction was building himself a giant 200-acre palace complex, which did actually happen. But he still kind of spearheaded this big relief effort and spent a lot of money and created a lot of jobs, stimulating the economy. Oh, and as for the fiddling thing, fiddles didn't exist, and Tacitus, who did not like Nero, says Nero wasn't even in the city at the time. I don't know quite where that rumor started. Now, to figure out how he got this nasty, nasty reputation, well, some of it's a little bit deserved. He had deft economic policy, for sure, but he also, bear in mind, was a teenager, and he seems to have been this is a little bit of armchair psychology, he seems to have rather wanted to be popular. Suetonius talks about that. I mentioned Suetonius' quote about that earlier. He kind of spent a lot of time among the working class as an actor included, which was considered very, very taboo. And then he also did kind of pick an out group and start murdering them, which is a classic popularity tactic throughout history. And the group he chose was Christians. This probably didn't help him that much in the popularity game, but it really made the Christians hate him. And when they took control of history a few hundred years later, they did everything in their power to blacken his name. So all of the writers who are writing about him that I've mentioned so far, Cassius Dio, Tacitus, and Suetonius, they are all writing a little bit after he's died, and he has been replaced in a coup. The people who replace him, well, there's a civil war called the Year of the Four Emperors, and would you believe there are also a Year of the Five and Year of the Six Emperors later on in Roman history, but it's 69 nice CE that this happens, and the winner of this civil war is a guy called Vespasian, and he does not want people remembering his predecessor kindly because he couped him, so he ensures that Nero is written down in a bad light and creates a lot of propaganda about how bad Nero was, which is part of why we remember him so badly. So that's about all I have for today. I hope you've all enjoyed this short video. Anyone who is wondering more about the economics specifically, like how did it not create inflation and stuff, I'll be linking my source down below, and it talks in detail about that stuff. Additionally, I am thinking I might be starting a podcast soon because I've had some viewers express interest in some longer form content. It would probably be like half-hour episodes where I kind of debunk a larger narrative, tell a story that's poorly understood or outright rewritten and why it's been rewritten. Just interesting stuff like that. If there's any interest for that, please drop a comment. And do the other things also, click the subscribe and like and the bell if you want to. And that should be it. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you next week.